Nelson Mandela has very famously remarked that youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. Now, in Bangladesh yesterday, due to massive protest, massive students' protest in the country, several key political changes happened. The Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, she fled the country, came to India, and would now be leaving for United Kingdom, where she has applied for an asylum. Now, all these developments are in relation to the students' protests which are going in their country, which is in relation to the protest done by the university students against the quota reforms in Bangladesh, against the reservation reforms in Bangladesh. Now, for India also, it is very important. And throughout this video, throughout this lecture, we'll be trying to understand a lot of things surrounding this particular issue. Now, as you know, Sheikh Hasina has resigned as Bangladesh Prime Minister and fled the country. And also, the protesters of the mob, they have entered the Prime Minister's residence as well. Now, one thing which we need to know here is that all these developments took place on August 5. But on August 4, one day before all these things happened, there were massive violent clashes in Bangladesh, where close to 98 people lost their lives. So massive violent protest clashes took place one day before this happened. And also, overall, close to 300 people have died because of these protests over the last many months. Now, India in this whole scenario has a very interesting role to play, because India historically and currently, recently, is having very good relationship with Bangladesh. And India has a key role to play in the formation of Bangladesh itself. So it is a key issue for us in that respect also. And in respect to internal security, since a lot of areas of our country are bordered with Bangladesh, it is very critical for us to see the developments and see what is going on in Bangladesh as a country. That is why we have basically advised our citizens not to travel to Bangladesh until further notice. And since it's a very serious issue for our internal security also, that is why our Cabinet Committee on Security, they met last night to take the stock of this particular situation. And even more important is that our National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, met Sheikh Hasina at Hindan Air Force Center when she landed in India, along with her sister, which makes this issue for India also critically and very, very important, right? Now, what these protests are all about, what is the genesis of this protest, what is the timeline of events, what happened, what is the politics of Bangladesh, how it is related to these protests, and how it is related to India, how it will be impacting India, and what will be the stance of India, and eventually what will be the way forward. All these things we'll be trying to understand in this particular lecture. Now, first thing let us try to understand is, what are the latest developments and what are the key developments? Now, after PM Sheikh Hasina resigned and fled the country, there was a press conference which took place by the army chief, who is basically Wakar-uz-Zaman. So Wakar-uz-Zaman, who's the army chief in Bangladesh, does a press conference at close to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, right? And he said that army will be taking over the country now. So there will be army rule. And army would be forming an interim government in Bangladesh. That is what Bangladesh army chief said. And several key political parties were also in that particular meeting. And according to the sources, it is said that noted Bangladesh writer and academic professor Salimullah Khan will be heading that particular interim government. This is what sources say. Now, in relation to India, what has India done? So our border security force, which is in that area which borders India and Bangladesh, we have intensified security along the India-Bangladesh border, so that infiltrators do not come into our country. Illegal migration does not take place. And a lot of other illegal activities, they are stopped because of that. Security is up in that particular region. These are the latest developments of what took place in the last 1 or 2 days, right? Now, one more thing, one more critical thing, which we need to understand is that how this issue originated. What is basically the genesis of this particular issue? So I told you that it will date back to the year 1971. And if you remember, in 1971, India-Pakistan war happened. And Bangladesh Liberation War also happened. And India had a key role to play in the formation of Bangladesh and the liberation of Bangladesh from Pakistan, right? And in that respect, there was one person who was very, very important and had a very critical role to play. That was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who is the founding father of Bangladesh. So eventually in 1971, when Bangladesh was basically remodeled, the main plank or the main pillar for creation of Bangladesh was the promise given by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to the people that people would be brought to justice. Justice would be given to people. That means atrocities which have been committed on several classes of people by the Pakistani army, justice would be served to them. And with respect to that, the next year in 1972, there was a resolve to create a quota system for the freedom fighters. That is the freedom fighters who fought for Bangladesh's freedom. There will be a quota introduced for them in the civil services of that particular country, that is of Bangladesh. Now, eventually what happened was that quota was also given to the women of the country who were tortured by Pakistani soldiers and Pakistani army. So earlier it was quota for the freedom fighters. Then women who suffered on the hands of the Pakistani soldiers, they were also added in that quota reservation. And after the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, eventually the quota system got diluted. Earlier it was for freedom fighters, then women were added, and eventually it was diluted and extended to unrepresented sections. That means marginal sections of Bangladesh society, several tribals, they were also added to this particular quota. So initially freedom fighters, then women were added, then tribals and other marginalized sections, unrepresented sections were also added in this particular quota. And eventually this became a varying and evolving quota system. Initially it was meant for just freedom fighters, and eventually it broadened its horizon, right? And freedom fighters, women, underdeveloped areas, and ethnic minorities or tribes eventually got added to this particular quota system. Till now, this is what the information we have. Now, eventually what will happen is that over the years, this quota system would be underutilized, right? And how? Because the number of freedom fighters, they will dwindle. The number of freedom fighters, they will be less because people would be dying, right? And the possibilities of abuse of this quota, they will increase. Because those who were deserving for this quota, those people are dwindling. There will be fake documents which will be made. There will be different families who will be taking the use of this particular quota, and it was not meant for those families, but they'll be abusing it, right? So several malpractices will start eventually after several years. And critics' argument is that these Mukti Jodhas, that is the freedom fighters known as Mukti Jodhas, right? When they were young and they were seeking jobs, it was fair to give them quota, or it was fair to give them reservation. But why to give reservation to their children? Why to give reservation to their grandchildren? Children and grandchildren haven't worked enough for the country. Freedom fighters have the contribution for the freedom of the country. But what have their children and grandchildren done? Why to give quotas to them? That is what critics argue. And after Mukti Jodhas passed, their children were getting the reservation in jobs, especially in the civil services. And eventually their grandchildren are getting the benefit now, because since then 3 generations have passed. So currently grandchildren of these Mukti Jodhas, that is the freedom fighters, they are getting the benefit, right, in Bangladesh. Eventually what happened was that there were several allegations which were leveled against Mrs. Sheikh Hasina's Awami League, that is the political party of Sheikh Hasina. Right? Several allegations were leveled against the political party and Sheikh Hasina that they were trying to put in their people in the civil services. Their own family members, their own close relatives, they were trying to put in those people through this quota system. That is what the allegations were leveled against them. And this basically prompted the students to start a movement, that is the quota reform movement in Bangladesh. To reform the quota system in the country and not to give quota to the generations offsprings of the Mukti Jodhas. Freedom fighters should have got the reservation, definitely yes. But why their children, why their grandchildren should be getting a reservation? That is what students started agitating for. That is why quota reform movement started. And in 2018, the agitation intensified. And there was agitation on the quota for descendants of these Mukti Jodhas. Now, what was the response of the government? This is very interesting. Now, after 2018, the government responded very amicably, and Sheikh Hasina cancelled all the quotas in Bangladesh civil services through an executive order. So through direct executive order, all the quota in the civil services of Bangladesh was cancelled by Sheikh Hasina. But students, what they were demanding reforms, not cancellation, right? So students, they wanted reform of the quota and not abolition of the quota system altogether, because there are several underrepresented classes who want the quota to be there, right? And which is fair to give them quota as well. But according to the students, it is not fair to give quota to the offsprings of the Mukti Jodhas, because they have not done anything to deserve that particular quota. Their ancestors definitely had done a lot of things for the country, but they have not done anything to deserve the quota. That is what students demanded. So now, I hope till now the story is very, very clear. So now, eventually what will happen, that this issue will again resurface back in 2024. In 2018, this issue resurfaced, and executive order was there. In 2020, the executive order got executed also. But in 2024, one step would be taken by Bangladesh High Court. So what Bangladesh High Court will do, Bangladesh High Court will allow the reintroduction of a job quota in the country, which will reserve 30%, a massive 30% of the civil services posts for children and grandchildren of fighters in the 1971 War of Independence for Bangladesh. So High Court allowed 30% reservation in Bangladesh civil services for children and grandchildren of the freedom fighters of the Mukti Jodhas of 1971 War of Independence. And this move will basically lead to the current protests which we see. So students from 6 prominent universities in Bangladesh, they will first stage peaceful protests. So initially there will be peaceful protests in the country. And eventually what will happen is basically that they will say that all these schemes, all these quotas are favoring the loyalists of the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's ruling Awami League. That is the political party which was ruling Bangladesh. So students started agitating that these reforms are not fair. These reforms are not just. And students of Bangladesh, they are suffering because of these reforms. That is what their main stand was. Now on June 7 till June 30, what will happen? After this, see, after June 5, on June 6, there was Eid. So because of that, protests were not there. But on June 7 till June 30, the whole month of June, there will be protests spread across the country. So these protests will gain momentum. People would be coming together. People would be sympathizing with these students because they were fighting or they were protesting for a fair cause, which they believe to be fair, right? Because of that, the resentment in the country, overall resentment against the government, it grew. It grew massively, right? And eventually, the university students in July month will start initiating blockades. They will start disrupting the roads and the railway lines in the country because they want the government to hear them. They want the government to take action, proactive action of what they are saying, right? So on July 15th, again, one very important thing happened. There was a statement given by Sheikh Hasina where she basically said that these protesters are basically the collaborators with Pakistan. So she likened the protesters with that of those who were sympathizing and collaborating with Pakistan in 1971. Again, it led to a lot of agitation in the country. It led to massive protest in the country. And the ruling alliance, the workers of the Awami League, they also attacked the quota protesters who were there in the Dhaka University. So students, the protesters, they were attacked by the party workers as well. And eventually, again, a situation of massive protest in July month also started in that particular country. In July 16, violent protests, they intensified. Close to 6 people, they died because of the clashes between the protesters and the pro-government supporters in Dhaka. So 6 people would die on July 16th. And in the whole month of July, you would see massive protests, blockades, violent protests, hundreds of people dying in Bangladesh. All these things you will see in July at a very, very large scale, at a very, very intense scale. And what will happen on 4th of August, which we understood before also, but let us understand one more time. On 4th of August, thousands of students, they will clash with the government supporters. And close to 90 people, 98 people to be specific, as of the numbers which we are getting right now, 98 people, they died, they lost their lives, which included police officers, which included students and protesters as well. And leaders of the opposition who were campaigning, they said that they will be marching to Dhaka for the final protest. And they'll be making the government hear their demands. So final protests were launched on August 5, where there were calls that we'll be going to PM's residence. But before that could happen, on August 5th morning, basically what happened was, again, 6 more protesters were killed. But Sheikh Hasina, she resigned on August 5th and she fled Bangladesh and left the country and came to India. So that is what the whole chronology of events are, and these are the events leading to the current development and the current situation in Bangladesh. Now, one more thing which is of importance and very critical for us to understand in this whole scenario is that how political situation in Bangladesh has a role to play in all these things, because it is having a very pertinent role to play in this. See, as we all know, Bangladesh is again a parliamentary democratic republic, which is having a constitution which was formed in 1972, and it is having close to 17 amendments. Now, one more thing to note here is that from 1975 to 1990, Bangladesh has seen a military rule. So for these many years, Bangladesh was in a military rule. After that, the democratic government came. In 2000s also, there have been instances where there were issues of military coup tried in Bangladesh, right? So this military rule in Bangladesh is nothing new. Bangladesh is having history of military rule as well. This is what we need to understand here. Now, one more thing for us to understand is there are three major political parties in Bangladesh, three major political powers. One is the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP. Another is Bangladesh Awami League, BAL. And another is Jatiya Party. Now, currently, which party is in power? So, in 2018, general elections happened in Bangladesh, and Awami League, they got 257 seats, right, out of the 350 seats in Bangladesh. So, they are in the ruling majority, right? And who is their leader? Sheikh Hasina, right? But one more thing which is very important, that if we see overall, in the history of independence, after 1971 in Bangladesh, close to 20 years have been ruled by Sheikh Hasina alone. So she has ruled for 20 years, and after 2009, she has ruled constantly and continuously. So for the last 15 years, who's ruling Bangladesh? Sheikh Hasina. But what is the problem here? See, whenever a person rules for a large period of time, definitely there are allegations of dictatorship on that particular person. But are these allegations true? Are these allegations not? There are several contentious debates around it. But one thing which is very true is that in the last many years, we have seen democratic backsliding in Bangladesh. That is what many experts, many academicians, many politicians around the world also, they believe. That democratic institutions in Bangladesh, they went for a toss in the last many years. And also, there have been several instances of human rights violation. Several instances where police have done excesses over the students. Several students have died. Several students have been arrested. Press freedom has been curbed, right? And also there have been extrajudicial killings alongside press freedom being curbed again. So because of all these issues, because of all these reasons and concerns, there have been allegations of being a dictator and Bangladesh becoming and turning into a dictatorship under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina. Because of that, because of these political reasons, there was a resentment, there was anger, there was furiousness amongst the people of Bangladesh, especially the students, which eventually led to this particular outcome and this particular development that she had to flee the country and come to India and apply in UK for an asylum. So these developments are not new. All these developments have been taking place since last many years. Slowly, bit by bit, situations were evolving, conditions were being formed, which eventually yesterday culminated into this particular thing or this particular event. So this particular event is not something which happened in the last one day or last 1 month or last 2 months or 3 months. Whole together last many years are responsible for this event to take place. Now in all these issues, what is very important for us as India, as a country to understand is that India and Bangladesh, they are two important pillars in the South Asia, Southeast Asia regional security. And anything which happens in Bangladesh, especially security related, it is of concern for India. Now let us understand this with the help of a map first. If you see this particular map, this is the area of Bangladesh, right? And this portion is India, this portion is Northeast India. If you see what all states are bordering Bangladesh, you'll be seeing West Bengal is having a very big boundary with Bangladesh. Then Meghalaya is having a boundary. Assam is also having a boundary with Bangladesh in these regions. Tripura and Mizoram are also having boundary with Bangladesh, which makes Bangladesh critically important for our internal security. Because anything which happens in these borders, they will definitely be impacting the regions of our country as well. So several infiltrators can come. There can be a refugee crisis. There can be a migrant crisis, like the Rohingya crisis, which we saw several years back, right? So such type of crisis can be there, which is why it is important for India to understand the situation, take a stock of the situation, and take remedial and corrective measures as well, right? Now let us see how it will be impacting India in real sense and what is the response of India. So first of all, the Border Security Force, they have definitely issued an alert of the 4098 kilometer border which Bangladesh is having in India. So there is an alert in that particular border region, right? Also, potential migration and refugee crisis can happen. To avoid that, we have intensified the security in the region. Also, we have suspended the train services with Bangladesh with immediate effect. So we are having 3 train services. That is Maitri Express, Bandhan Express and Mitali Express. All these services between India and Bangladesh, train services, we have suspended. We have suspended flight services also. And this is the advisory which is issued by the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, for those who are in Bangladesh. So in the view of ongoing developments, Indian nationals are strongly advised against traveling to Bangladesh till further notice. And also, all Indians who are there in the Bangladesh, they are advised to exercise extreme caution. They're advised to restrict their movements and also to remain in contact with the High Commission of India in Dhaka. That is what the official advisory of Ministry of External Affairs to Bangladesh says, right? Now, also one more thing is there, that since we were seeing this ongoing protest in the last many months, so India was calling back a lot of its students also who went to Bangladesh for studies. So close to 978 Indian students have returned from Bangladesh before 5th of August 2024. Also, Indo-Bangladesh trade have been halted because of the customs issue, right? So trade has been halted. Also, protesters have damaged in Bangladesh the Indira Gandhi Cultural Center, which is in Dhaka. See, one thing which we have to see here is that there are several sections in Bangladesh which are anti-India also, and which level charges against India or allegations against India that India is trying to meddle and interfere in the internal issues of Bangladesh. Definitely, India's security agencies have a role to play. They have a role to play in Bangladesh formation also. But these allegations are too far-fetched. But still, there are several sections in Bangladesh which are against India. And that is why you will see that these sections are destroying Indian properties in Bangladesh also. That is why LIC office has also been closed temporarily because of these protests, right? Now, what is India's stance? Now, India has, till now, while I'm making this video, India has not issued any official statement. Our Foreign Affairs Minister, External Affairs Minister, he has talked with the leader of opposition. He has talked with the Prime Minister of the country. Cabinet committee, they have also met, right? But officially there is no statement given by the government. But as a country, these are the values on which we stand. We stand on the value of peace. We stand on the value of democracy. We are the largest democracy in the whole world. So definitely we would want the peace to be restored in the country. Democracy should be there. And also justice to be given to those who have suffered in these protests. Justice should definitely be there. And since it is an internal matter of Bangladesh, definitely we will have a very curated and a very, I would say, a very intelligent response to it. We won't be having a very emotional response to this particular issue because it is an internal matter of other country. And we always believe that other countries should not interfere in our internal matters and we should not interfere in other countries' internal matters as well. But one more thing which is very critical here is that India follows a neighborhood first policy. That is, we keep our neighborhood first. And India is an emerging power in the Southeast Asia, in South Asia and Asian region and the global world as well. And since we are the voice of the global South, what we need to understand here is in relation to our foreign policy, it is very important for us to play a positive role in the region. So in Bangladesh's internal affairs as well, if the situations permit, definitely India can have a very major role to play in a restoration of democracy in Bangladesh. Now, how this role is played and what all things Indian government can do, it is for later time, it is for future, it is for us to discuss in future. We will definitely discuss it in future. But currently, in relation to regional security, in relation to stability in the region, it is very critical for our country to play a proactive role in this, right? But definitely our stance would be around these particular peace, democracy, and keywords only. Now let us try to understand the way forward. That from this situation, what next, right? Now, United Kingdom has given the call for swift action to restore democracy in Bangladesh. So we'll be understanding the stance of different countries in relation to this particular issue and what have they said that what should be done in the coming future. So United Kingdom has said that swift action should be there to restore the democracy. European Union, they have called for calm and restraint in the country. And they've said that orderly and peaceful transition towards democratically elected development should be there in Bangladesh. And also said that there should be respect of human rights and democratic principles in the country in the current situation. So United Kingdom has given a statement. European Union has given a statement. Also United States State Department, USA State Department have also issued a statement. And they said that we urge all the parties to refrain from further violence. So further violence should be stopped. And also US have urged calm and restraint in the days ahead. And also said that they welcome the announcement of interim government and they urge the transition to be conducted in accordance with the Bangladesh laws. That is what United States have said. So United Kingdom, European Union and United States, they have given their responses along with several other countries in the whole world. And this definitely should be the way forward. That is, democracy should be restored in Bangladesh. Interim government, after that, fully elected government should be formed. Proper elections should happen. And as fast as possible, if the military rule goes away, it is better for the people of Bangladesh. And definitely, justice should prevail. All the very best and have a nice day.